All right, let's take the green apple and say that it's going to look something like this sphere, right? So maybe I start with a spherical understanding. Maybe I want to understand the ellipse on the top of the apple. But for me, I look at the apple and I see a cylinder, or a, what is this called? A sphere. And then I draw my shadow in the way that I see it on the table relating to the ellipse that might sit underneath the sphere, right? I notice that there's an elliptical space here so that my shadow core comes like this, just like it does through that sphere. It's coming this way through the side of the apple. And then it happens to come along here, doesn't it? So I'm sort of outlining along the edge of there, and maybe it's going to turn like that a little bit and come down. I'm going to be really specific about it now. And in here, I want to get some reflected light, it looks like, right? If I'm not seeing reflected light, then maybe I want to put an object or a piece of paper or something over here that's going to reflect. See how much more reflected light I have in there now? Yeah, much more interesting, isn't it, than when I have anything over there? So, see, that'll do something, right? That help? I've got some reflected light up here at the top too, right? So I'm seeing quite a bit of shadow core in here. I'm going to do a reflected light up in there. I'm going to do cast shadow on the table. Notice that here, the detail I have here is that this side of here is actually in shadow. So I'm going to have a core along here, right? And maybe I want to start moving that in contouring and cross contouring. Maybe I want to draw this whole apple in contouring, because it's a little different than the sphere, right? It's a little bit flatter on the bottom, sort of comes along this way and this way. So I'd like to see you take this and just get some contour lines going like this around it. Sort of understand that this shoulder up here is a little higher, it's a little straighter down there. This, though, is going to come up and over and down in, isn't it? So this is where the contouring is really going to pay off in that apple. So if I start to understand what's happening up here, then I'm going to get some shadow over here. I've got an object actually rising up out of there, which is lit on this side and shaded on this side, and then it's casting a shadow right here. So I've done my step one, which is divide light from shadow. I'm going to go in here where it's shaded, and I'm going to put more cross contour than I put out here in the light, basically, right? So step one, still, I'm dividing light from shadow. To get something like that. Step number two is divide my shadow into black and gray, making my core and my cast black and my reflected light gray. So I'm going to come here at the place where it turns from light to dark. Look at that, I started doing a hatching. Following my contour lines, I'm going to put these in where the core should be and where I want the cast to be. So I'm now going to define this line along here. Or work up to that line and get this all in dark. Maybe rub it in the opposite direction. Speed myself up a little bit there. Then I want to blend. So I want to look for soft and hard edge, right? And I'm going to get a softer edge between my reflected light. I'm just going to rub around in here a little bit as well to sort of pull this into that. And already I've got a pretty darn realistic apple, right? If I wanted to lightly dust this area out here, I can then take my eraser and say there's a highlight right here on the shoulder of that apple. And I'm moving this in the contour too. I'm trying to say it moves a little bit around this ellipse, a little bit up and down that way. I see a little bit, I might even say there's a highlight down right in here. Right? I should have my click eraser. My point would be much more useful up in there. I can make this kneaded eraser into a point, but it just doesn't scrub out the medium. Oh, it's doing a pretty good job. All right, so up here I want to separate light from highlights, so I might just come in here and do just a little bit more drawing. But I, at the end of it, want to make sure, so my last step of all is that nothing in the shadow is as light as anything in the light. So I'm going to check my number 3 over here. I also could take this and sort of work that up a little bit. I could take this kneaded eraser and I can work that edge again, right? But if I do that and this comes up to the same light as that, these are a little bit too close for me. So I'm going to want to kind of rub that down, get a little bit more material in there, maybe put some more material down, rub it around, be specific about my edges. And sort of a bridge between a man-made object, which is the car and the stapler and that kind of. So you're going to want to look at the difference, for instance, between, here I have a green pepper drawn, right? The difference between a green pepper and an apple is really that contour that comes around and goes, right, in and out of that. And these are quick, dirty drawings here, but they do have cross contour, shadow core, reflected light, cast shadow. So as scribbly and sketchy and wonky as they may be, they do have quite a lot of drawing knowledge and understanding in them that's showing you kind of what I want you to get, at least as far as sketch.